Hello and welcome to another edition of As the Blade Turns. My name is Dave Leese, and today I want to discuss the disappearance of junior Russian figure skating champion Alina Gorbacheva, championka России по юниорам. This was originally reported by the mother of the 16-year-old athlete. Gorbacheva went missing around 7 p.m. the day before. The figure skater left the ice rink at the Chokhlov Arena and headed towards the Vladimir Church. The last time she was captured on camera was at the address of Volokolomskoye Shose, property number 67. There is currently no information about Alina. We are still searching. There are only camera recordings of her entering the park and nothing else. A cynologist with a dog has arrived and they will search, but a lot of time has already passed, said Ekaterina Gorbacheva. Alina is the 2023 Russian junior champion. According to Championat, Gorbacheva has been considering changing coaches. Her coach is Sofia Fedchenko, and she may currently be staying with one of her friends. This information is reported by Championat with reference to the SHOT Telegram channel. According to the source, there was a conflict between Alina's coach, Sofia Fedchenko, and the skater's mother due to the fact that the coach took the girl away from her mother when she was 9 years old. Gorbacheva was exchanging messages with a friend shortly before her disappearance. Her friends didn't notice anything suspicious. The skater said that she was going to a training session and did not get in touch after that. Well, according to Baza, on the day of her disappearance, Alina refused to go to practice. According to Baza, a conflict between Alina and coach Sofia Fedchenko occurred before the start of the training. The girl ran into the locker room, and when Fedchenko entered, she only saw Gorbacheva's skates. Initially, the coaches thought that Alina was just upset, thinking that arguments happen, and she would soon come back to training after a breath of fresh air, either to the ice rink or back home to Fedchenko's place, where the coach and the skater lived together. However, nobody saw the skater after that. When it became clear that Alina had disappeared, a search was initiated around the ice rink area, involving the police and search teams. Alina had her passport, cash, phone, tablet, and a dark blue backpack with her. During the night, search teams explored the park near Pokrovskaya Embankment and Vladimirskaya Church, precisely where she was last spotted by cameras at 1900 hours and 8 minutes. Nevertheless, they found no traces of her. She didn't exit the park. Alina's information was entered into the facial recognition database, but so far the cameras in Moscow haven't detected her. Alina Gorbacheva's grandmother has revealed details about the argument between her granddaughter and the coach before her disappearance. The junior champion of Russia disappeared in Moscow around 1700 hours the night before after leaving the ice rink. The last time she was seen on camera was at the address of Volokolomskoye Shose, Building 67. She is coached by Sofia Fedchenko. I haven't talked to my granddaughter for a while. I saw her at a show. My granddaughter hasn't written anything to me lately. I spoke to my daughter today. My granddaughter had an argument with the coach and left. We don't know the reason for the argument with the coach. For 3 years, the coach has forbidden Alina from communicating with us. She said that to achieve success, you shouldn't communicate with grandmothers, mothers, fathers, or anyone. In the last 3 years, the coach even forbade us from meeting with her. We kept silent so as not to spoil the child's career. My granddaughter never complained herself. The coach brainwashed the child. But she never had a depressive state. She was more composed. Everything was fine. Alina has a card. This card was linked to the coach's phone. After the argument, my granddaughter took 20 to 30,000 rubles in her passport, and she left the coach's apartment, the skater's grandmother said. Well, the location of the 16-year-old figure skater Alina Gorbacheva was established earlier today. This was reported by the Telegram channel of the Moscow prosecutor's office. With the coordinating role of the Moscow prosecutor's office, the location of the 16-year-old athlete was established in the cinema of one of the shopping centers. According to preliminary information, no illegal actions have been committed against her. At present, nothing threatens her life and health. Bastrykin demanded a report on the criminal case on the disappearance of the figure skater. This is reported by the Telegram channel of the Investigative Committee of Russia. The Investigative Committee opened a murder case after the skater disappeared the day before. The Moscow prosecutor's office said that the figure skater went into one of the cafes on the Volomska highway this afternoon. The agency released a video of the girl in the cafe. The chairman of the investigative committee of the Russian Federation, Bastrykin, instructed acting head of the main investigating committee of the Investigating Committee of Russia in Moscow's Yarosh, as some report on the circumstances established during the investigation and measures aimed at searching for the minor. The investigation of the criminal case has been put under control in the central office in the department. Well, I want to talk about the timeline that has been established on Sports.ru for the disappearance of 16-year-old figure skater Alina Gorbacheva. At about 1 p.m., it became known that Alina was missing the night before she left the rink at the arena, the last time cameras recorded the athlete at the address of Volomska Highway, number 67. At 13:30, a message appeared that Alina's belongings were found on Pokrovskaya embankment. Later, it turned out that the information was premature. Investigators found only socks on the beach. It is not known whether they belonged to the skater. Championat reported that Alina disappeared after a quarrel with her coach. The skater works under the guidance of Sofia Fedchenko. Information also appeared that Gorbacheva wants to change her coach, and maybe with one of her friends. The investigative committee began a pre-investigation check after the disappearance of the figure skater. The Moscow prosecutor's office published a video of Gorbacheva leaving a training session at the arena. Alina's grandmother, in an interview, stated that her granddaughter quarreled with the coach and left. She noted that Coach Fedchenko forbade Alina to communicate with relatives for 3 years. The investigative committee opened a criminal case on the murder after the disappearance of the athlete. Volunteers of the Liza Elite Search Squad joined the search for the figure skater. The champion of Russia in ice dancing, Elizaveta Hordarbedieva, also decided to take part in the search. At around 5 p.m., the divers completed their search for Alina in the Moscow River. Choreographer Nikita Mikhailov, who works with Sofia Fedchenko's group, said that Gorbacheva and her coach had no conflicts. Alina's father went to Moscow from Krasnodar to help look for his daughter. Chairman of the investigative committee, Alexander Bastrykin, demanded a report on the criminal case of the disappearance of the figure skater. At around 8 p.m., the Moscow prosecutor's office published a video from the surveillance camera of a Moscow cafe. Alina got into the frame of the video. The video was filmed at around 1 p.m. At around 10 p.m., the police found Alina in the cinema of one of the shopping centers. According to the Moscow prosecutor's office, nothing threatens the life and health of the skater. Olympic champion and legendary asshole Alexei Yagudin posted bon appetit on his Instagram story above a still of the image of Alina Gorbacheva, who was getting food at the Moscow cafe. Employees of the investigative committee are conducting investigative actions with figure skater Alina Gorbacheva after she disappeared. Tonight, the police found her in one of the cinemas. The juvenile was taken into the subdivision of the capital's investigative committee. With the participation of a legal representative and a psychologist, the investigators began to conduct investigative actions with her, the agency said in a statement. About 90 volunteers searched for the figure skater. This was reported in the press service of the Volunteer Search and Rescue Squad Liza Alert. In one of the shopping centers in Moscow, 4 search groups of the Liza Alert detachment worked out the tasks that they received from the search coordinator. When they worked out one of the tasks, a key certificate was obtained that the child was in the territory of this shopping center. The certificate was promptly handed over to the police officers who also worked on the territory of the shopping center. When checking this evidence, the girl was found. In total, about 90 people registered at the Liza Elite Search headquarters. Her uncle also spoke about the conflict with the coach. The toxic trainer was very strong. She fenced off Alina from all relatives and turned her against all of her family. I just didn't communicate with the coach, so she didn't communicate with me. This coach did not impress me in any way. She is not quite the right things for me. She did not communicate with those who did not communicate with her coach, said the uncle. I wanted to provide some background information about Alina Gorbacheva that I found from some sources in Russia. Now, it was reported in articles that the figure skater started living with her coach at age 9. And according to these sources, this is because Alina's mom didn't originally want for her to skate. At that point in time, Alina was not on the national team, and the mom didn't want to pay. Parents actually invest a lot of money for their figure skating children in Russia prior to the child making the national team or a rink such as Eteri Tutberidze's, at what point training is covered. At this point in time, Alina was an up-and-coming talent, but she wasn't picked by a top coach who could cover her training. Now, the young coach, Sofia Fedchenko, saw potential in Alina. Now, Alina lived with Sofia, who is a very young coach, and has kind of the relationship with her of a young mom or an older sister. Alina's mom has really been missing in action in her life. Alina's mother was reportedly never a big fan of figure skating. Alina showed results a few years ago. At that point, she did appear to be very thin, like most Russian juniors are. Last year, she performed very well, winning the Russian Junior Figure Skating Championships and being invited to the Channel One Cup. Now, it's important to remember that when she won Russian nationals, Evgeny Plushenko was outraged. Plushenko was very upset because his athlete performed 4 quads, despite having the musicality of a computer. And at that point in time, he was extremely upset that his girl was second to someone who does far fewer technical content. People began to learn about the coach of Sofia Fedchenko, who is the coach of Alina Gorbacheva. Alina is really her only shot to be a famous coach. Earlier this summer, Alina got injured training a triple axel and was going to miss the first half of the season, which upset many people in the figure skating community. Then she went missing. They did have a fight prior to the evening practice where she took her skates and disappeared, but she also took up to 30,000 rubles, her passport, her credit card, and her tablet. So this was very much a planned disappearance. The whole police were involved. She was on video from a Moscow cafe. Now, it's important to remember that she was obviously scared to go back. This is someone who has zero support outside of her coach, which is a situation that perhaps the coach has orchestrated. The dad lives with a new family in the south of Russia, in Krasnodar. Her mom is from Moscow, but is on the other side of the city. It's very similar to this situation, which happened to other athletes. The reporter mentioned that it was with Trusova at the Olympics that this is too much pressure. But I'm actually reminded of situations that happened, even perhaps with Eteri's first main student, Polina Shelepin, who reportedly went missing in the forest. If you remember, Alina Zagitova also escaped from training and was brought back. During the late 1970s, gymnasts Nadia Comaneci and Teodor Ungarianu both escaped from the Deva Training Center and from the Karoli training methods and their camp, only to be brought back by the Securitate in Romania. This is quite reminiscent of that situation. If you've seen the Nadia movie, this is around the time that Nadia may or may not have attempted suicide. The reporters mentioned that it depends in many situations whether or not the parents are aware of the training methods of the coach, and in some situations, the parents actually support the coach and their brutal methods to get results for their child, which can ensure a better life for the family. Now, all of this is on the backdrop of what is happening with the Kamila Valieva doping case. Kamila Valieva, after a year and a half, is finally going to go to trial for what happened in December of 2021 and February of 2022. Yet, if you recall, after the Olympics, at the time that Diana Davis and Gleb Smolkin were married, Eteri had deleted all of her photos with President Vladimir Putin from her Instagram as she was potentially country shopping for her students and attempting to disrupt and distance herself from Vladimir Putin. She ran into a source at the airport in Florida and said that she did not support Putin. Well, that has now changed. If you remember, she had received a prestigious order from the government after the Olympic Games, but she didn't appear, saying that she was sick. This is around the time that she began deleting everything with Putin and around the time that Diana and Gleb began posting in English, and they were married in Las Vegas. Now, recently, the state had an opening of the Eteri Tutberidze arena. The state of Russia has generously supported and financed the building of a new skating school for Eteri Tutberidze, and it will be called the Eteri Tutberidze School. Eteri has not had to pay money for this, and she is profiting greatly. She is already moving to junior ice dance, as well as senior pairs. If you remember, Boykova and Kozlovsky moved to train under her from Tamara Moscovina, earlier this summer. Now, this is all going on as the ISU is increasing the age limit for Russian figure skaters. For figure skaters at large, but the Russian figure skaters are the ones perhaps most affected, as their young, very thin athletes have been performing quads, which no one else around the world has been able to master consistently. Mao Shimada did have a triple axel and a quad for a very short amount of time, though not as consistent as the Russians, and as she has grown, those elements are certainly considered rather unstable at this point in time. Now, the war has actually been quite profitable for some coaches like Eteri or Alexander Zhulin, who has actually made well as Putin tries to continue to keep top skaters and top coaches in Russia. Sofia Samodelkina has tried to leave Russian figure skating to skate for Kazakhstan, but the Russian Federation has intimated that they would require some sort of payment to release her to Kazakhstan. Annabelle Morozov remains in Russia, even though earlier this year she did have a tryout with a French junior boy. Now, it is very interesting that Angelika Krylova will be coaching Annabelle, as Nikolai Morozov has really waned in terms of political influence. If you remember, during the Olympic season, he had an alliance with Irina Zhuk and that coaching team, but that disintegrated along with Annabelle's partnership with her former partner, David. In the past, Nikolai has made some rather political moves. He did marry the figure skater Vasilisa Davinkova right when she turned 18 years old. Now, it's important to note that Vasilisa's father actually has a huge political influence, and his nephew is now in the State Duma in a very high position. So there is lots happening in Russian figure skating, and as Thomas Bach is going to eventually determine what happens with Russian sports, it's impossible to ignore that the Russians continue to play chess as they continue to try to dominate figure skating, even as they are currently banned from competition. I did want to point out that there are rules in the United States against living with coaches. Recently, the figure skater from Mexico, Donovan Carrillo, actually switched coaches to Canada. He was previously living with his coach in Mexico. We do remember that Dominique Dawes lived with Kelly Hill, and if you listen to her podcast with Leslie Visser, she talks about how psychologically damaging that was. Of course, Oksana Baiul lived with Coach Galina Zmeyevskaya in the 1990s until she crashed her car into a tree, at which point she split with the coach. That situation has also resulted in numerous lawsuits, with Baiul claiming that Zmeyevskaya stole money from her. This is definitely something to pay attention to, as these are major safe sport rules, and there are perhaps reasons that a figure skater should not live with a coach. As usual, the Russian Gaslighting Committee went into high alert. Tatiana Tarasova reacted to the information about the location of Alina Gorbacheva. I am very happy. They searched for a person. They thought she was not alive. And she sits in the cinema and watches a movie. Thank God you're alive, Tarasova said. Choreographer Nikita Mikhailov stated that Fedchenko and Gorbacheva had no conflicts. The champion of Russia among juniors, Championka Rasi po juniorum, Alina Gorbacheva, who trains with Sofia Fedchenko, disappeared the day before, about at 19 hours after she left the Chalov Arena skating rink, the last time the cameras recorded her at the address of Vologolsk Highway, Possession 67. The grandfather of the figure skater, in an interview, said that her granddaughter quarreled with the coach and left. There were no conflicts, everything was fine, and no one wanted to move. As for the competition, I won't say for sure. Perhaps Alina was supposed to participate in the so-called test skates for figure skaters in Moscow, said Mikhailov, who works with the Fedchenko group. Ilya Averbu commented in the news about the finding of Alina. First of all, I'm just humanly very happy about this good news. Alina skated with me on tour. It was her coach who asked me to support Alina and take the figure skater on tour so that she gains experience and competes alongside big champions, which is basically what I did. In a number of cities on the tour, Alina performed, did very well. The audience received her wonderfully. When I put on a program for Matvey Vetlugin, I did it on the ice where Alina trained. Therefore, for several days, I witnessed how reverently Sofia Fedchenko coached Alina in the off-season. From what I saw, it was a very productive work, a wonderful collaboration between a young, very ambitious and talented coach and a young, talented and ambitious figure skater. Therefore, I am very pleased with the resolution of this situation. I think that the most correct thing that the press can do now is to tell everyone that everything is fine and not to inflate, not to be swaggering, not to injure anyone. We support everyone. We move on, said Averbuk. Svetlana Zhurova reacted to the news about the finding of Alina. All this is standard practice for parents of a teenager. Everyone reacts differently to protest. I think they will show her what a fuss she made and how they worried about her. Thank God I found it. If I were her parents, I would show everything that they wrote, how people sincerely worried about her. Maybe she wanted to feel needed. At this age, no one seems to love you, especially when you are constantly in training and your girlfriends already have some kind of personal life. Will she stay with the coach? I think the parents will sit down, talk, and decide. We need to listen to the girl and her desires. All's well that ends well, said the State Duma deputy. Alexander Zhulin reacted to the news about the finding of Alina. Like any ordinary child, at the age of 16, I quarreled with a coach. The transitional age, hormones play. Coaches and athletes themselves, whose psyche is shaken, need to be more careful. A difficult situation. Here, it is necessary to turn to Malakov, and not to me. If I yelled at my student so that she disappeared, then I would be madly worried, and the next time I would not do that. True, it's scary. The girl scared us very much. I think that the coach needs to sit down, talk to her, and come to a common denominator. Or maybe the girl is very touchy. Maybe the girl told her that with such skating, she would never win the Olympics. She didn't seem to say anything serious. It might be like that, and I can say that. This is a very difficult moment. You can talk for a very long time, said the coach. Well, Yevgenia Medvedeva commented on the news about Alina being found. The 16-year-old figure skater Alina Gorbacheva was found by police in Moscow after a day of being missing. In this whole situation, there's a lot that's incorrect. We don't know all the details. We can discuss, but we shouldn't condemn. It's definitely not up to us to figure out. The matter has reached the prosecutor's office. I will keep my own opinion to this because there will certainly be people who think I'm wrong, and they'll keep dissecting this. Right now, this is not the most important thing. The most important thing is that the person is alive and that things are okay in terms of human life. What will happen next, we'll see, but the situation overall is not great. The only thing I'll remind everyone is that even though she may look 12, she's already 16. At this age, a person should already take responsibility for themselves and their actions. Of course, there are factors like mental health, which is crucial, and the family situation. We know that before this situation, the athlete was not living with her family, but with her coach. That in itself is a strong psychological stress, in my opinion. I wouldn't be able to do that. What happened, no one knows, but the person is already quite grown up. That's why the situation is causing such a resonance. As someone who has been in the sports constantly, I don't understand the situation. How can you allow a 16-year-old, even though she looks 12, to just go to a park somewhere? In my case, I also look much younger than my age. My mom or great-grandma would take me from home to practice, from practice to the car and back home, always asking, where are you? What are you doing? Some sort of supervision. Because firstly, it's sports, and secondly, it's a child, at least in appearance. A person who looks 12, how can you let them walk around like that? Said Medvedeva. And now an update from the great Christine Brennan. U.S. figure skating team asks to observe Russian skater Kamila Valieva's doping hearing. Still waiting for their medals from the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics, U.S. figure skating team presses the Court of Arbitration for Sport to let them attend Kamila Valieva's doping hearing next month. More than a year and a half after the Kamila Valieva scandal robbed the 9 members of the U.S. figure skating team of their medal ceremony at the 2022 Beijing Olympics, the team emailed a letter Thursday morning to the Court of Arbitration for Sport asking to be granted a seat to observe Valieva's closed doping hearing next month. We make our request seeking much-needed transparency that we have been largely denied throughout this arduous process, the Americans wrote to CAS Director Matthew Reeb in a letter obtained exclusively by USA Today Sports. The outcome of this hearing has a material effect on our lives and careers, and as an affected party, we ask for the opportunity to observe a small part of the process that has concerningly remained hidden from a view despite the international attention surrounding this case for the past year and a half. We are not the only ones affected. The Japanese and Canadian teams have also been unfairly enmeshed in this turmoil, and we ask that CIS consider granting a member of each team observer status as well. On February 7th, 2022, Russia won the gold medal, the United States won the silver medal, and Japan won the bronze medal in the team figure skating competition in Beijing. The following day, those results were thrown into disarray when Valieva, the then 15-year-old star of the Russian team, was found to have tested positive for the banned substance trimetazidine on December 25, 2021, at the Russian Championships, forcing the unprecedented cancellation of the Olympic medal ceremony. It's important to note that there were 2 other heart medications in Valieva's system. Although they weren't banned, it does point to a very planned drug cocktail. That's when time stood still. The next year was marked by an infuriating blend of dithering and delays by the sole organization charged with conducting the Valieva investigation, the Russian anti-doping agency, the oxymoron to end all oxymorons, an organization that was suspended from 2015 through 2018 for helping Russian athletes cheat. When a WADA disciplinary tribunal finally found that Valieva bore no fault or negligence for the anti-doping violation that USADA itself ruled she had committed, the World Anti-Doping Agency appealed, sending the case to CAS for a close to the public hearing September 26th through the 29th in Lausanne, Switzerland. WADA is seeking a 4-year ban for Valieva and disqualification of all of her results since the December 2021 positive test, which would include her performance in the Olympic team figure skating competition and could affect the order of the medals in that event. Were Russia to be stripped of the gold medal, the United States and Japan would move up to earn the gold and silver medals, respectively, while Canada, the 4th-place finisher, would then receive the bronze. The world has watched this unfortunate series of events unfold with no clear answers, the U.S. team wrote in its letter. Granting us an opportunity to observe the hearing would give us athletes greater confidence in and understanding of the process, and it could also boost the public's trust in the ultimate decision in the Olympic movement overall. The Americans continued, "We are incredibly disappointed that over 500 days have passed since our Olympic triumph, and yet we still have not received our medals. But in no way do we intend to influence the outcome of this hearing, nor do we intend to be a distraction. Nothing can turn back the clocks of this saga, but being permitted to observe the hearing would be a small step towards achieving transparency that we skaters and the entire world deserve. In the name of clean sport, we hope you will consider our request." A CAS spokesman did not immediately reply to an email Thursday morning seeking comment on the Americans' letter. Recently, Oksana Baiul was interviewed about Kamila Valieva and Russian figure skating coaches.
Honestly?
Here is her reply.
Do you think Tutberidze will appear?
No.
No, right? Yeah.
Honestly? No.
Yeah.
No.
The doctor will have to.
The Ukraine forum, the people who wrote the story yesterday, they did wrote about it. And they asked me, they said, "Why are you so mean to Kamila?" I said, I'm not mean to Kamila. I can say what I feel, and what I said about her triple axel, the takeoff.
That's correct.
Exactly motherfucking happened under the stress.
Absolutely.
Mistake came the fuck out.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's true.
So I am, as a professional, has the right to say what I think.
Yeah.
Well, but she's a baby. I said, listen, if she's a baby, then let her play with kindergarten kids.
Yes, of course.
And third, I said, sweet, the worst part for me is not her skating, it's not her doping. The worst part for me is when the war started in February, then that was the end of the Olympic Games.
Did you see the program she did with the hood over her face
Yeah,
and all that?
that
Yeah.
was totally taken from me, right?
Yes, and they were being disgusting, right? Like about saying that this was like the media, that they invented this. But yes, they were taking from you. That is the drama of Oksana Baiul. Yes, of course. Yes.
But I don't even speak about that. Did you see Alina Zagitova costume? Come on. That's like fucking 95 my costume. And, you know, like the article I sent it to you yesterday, they wrote.
Yeah.
You know, they always need, especially now, my God, to tell their audience how great they are. But let alone they forgot what happened in the 90s. How everyone came in, you know, to U.S.
Yeah.
All of those skaters who had won the gold medals in 1994, all those Russian skaters, they all came into U.S.
Tarasova, all of them. Loved the U.S. to make money.
Tchaikovskaya, all of them. I was telling them this, and I think they just forgot one little thing. Why figure skating skyrocketed in the 90s? Because of U.S. To me, when I have read that yesterday, I couldn't stop laughing because every single skater that they mentioned, like, I don't know, Katya Gordeeva. I mean, Sergey is dead, but Katya lives in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And Alexei Urmanov, but there are so many other people that they have mentioned. They all skated either on Stars and Ice or let me tell you something. Let me tell you something about Valieva that is very important.
Yeah.
So when they asked me, why don't you like her? I said, because when the war started, Putin invited all of them to, gave them blah, blah, blah. And it was on her birthday. Yeah?
Okay. Yeah.
When she went to Krim, I don't fucking know where she went to meet Putin.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yep.
And obviously he mentioned her and he said, happy birthday to you.
Yeah.
And I think she was turning, 18, something like that. But the war has started already. The article that I had sent it to you about me speaking, I said I do not dislike her for what happened at the Olympics, what this. Of course, I think it's horrendous, but when someone goes and kisses Putin's ass, and they asked her, they said, Kamila, what's the best thing about your birthday? Oh, my president. I love my president. Fuck you, bitch. I hope, no, seriously, I hope the fucking rocket will not come to your fucking stadium where you're training.
Yeah.